Hi everyone, my name's Joel. I'm the head of product here at Health Unlocked. You can see I'm drinking from my Health Unlocked mug, which is very nice. I thought I would just let you put a face to a name before we get started looking at the platform. So I think I'm gonna disappear now. So sorry about that. Okay, so I thought it would be nicest to do a sort of side-by-side comparison of what we have now and then where we're going, just because it'll help illustrate some of the changes that we've made, and then hopefully it'll make it easier to see why we've made some of the changes we've made. So I think one thing that's important is just bearing in mind that what you're about to see isn't finished. We've still got a good bit of work to do over the next few weeks to finesse things and to put in functionality that's currently missing, and to just bring it up to scratch. But we wanted to show you because you're sort of our valued partners, and we wanted to let you see it before anybody else gets to see it publicly. What we've been doing along the way is going through a design process and then a development process, and then in the design process, what we've done is bring in some users from Health Unlocked. It may even be users from your own community to have a look at the very early stages of the design and have them click around and see if it works. And along the way, the process was that we would just sort of iterate and that we would make changes as the users as they go through the journey, things make sense or don't make sense. So hopefully we've captured a lot of that feedback, and we're beginning to produce something that would be quite usable and more friendly to them overall. So let's just have a quick look. So when you log in, what you'll see is your news feed. So here's the current one on the current site. Maybe actually before I get started, I'll just say one word about why we've redone some of this stuff. We think that there was, number one, for a very simple reason, we needed the ability to sort of make the site look a little bit more modern, but that's not really the main reason. The main reason was that we thought that we could build a more stable version of the platform, one that was faster, one that had less bugs, one that crashed less, one that required less maintenance from us as a development and a product team. And in turn, what that means is that we would then be able to deliver more features. We'd be able to respond quickly. Your feedback would be able to be turned into products, and so on and so forth. So we thought it takes a little bit of investment up front to rebuild the site, but it also means that down the line we're going to be able to move much, much faster. And hopefully you'll have a much faster site and a much better experience of the platform as a whole. So those are the reasons why we did it. Again, bear in mind we're not quite done, but we wanted to show this to you. So here it is. This is your news feed. This is where you land when you log in, unless you come from an email or something like that. If you just come to healthunlocked.com and you put in your login details, this is where you go, your news feed, and you can see that we've got a similar sort of page here on the right-hand side, but the aim was to make it cleaner. So if you look over here on the left, you have sort of an image on this side, a title here, and then that title is broken by the time, how long ago that thing was posted, and then the title resumes again. And then you have another image here. So it's hard for your eye to move from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen and down and scan quickly and sort of get a good idea of what's going on. Whereas on this news site, what we wanted to do was provide a bit of immediate context. So the way that we tried to do that was by offering a profile picture of the user, slightly bigger, round. The only reason for round is it's a little bit more modern. It's sort of the style of the web these days. But then also offer the icon of the community that user has posted in. So immediately, when your eye hits the left side of this page, you can see who the person is and what community they're posting in. For people who just have one community, it's not that big of a deal, but for people who have multiple communities, like I do in this account, I can easily see who's saying what and where they're saying it. So that made a lot more sense to us. Also, this we wanted to make it so that you have this immediate context, but then you can also see who's doing what and where. So this person answered here, similar to over here. but we didn't want to break up that experience. We didn't want your eye to have to read this and then read the time and then read more of this. Instead, we put all the supporting information about each one of these activity items below. So it just allows you to get straight into the content. And really, that was one of the main aims of redoing this, was bringing to the fore the things that are most important to the user and hopefully to you as admins. So one way you'll see that we've done that is by just using color a little bit less. So if you look over here, there's quite a lot going on. You have a couple of boxes, you have yellows, blues, the whole background is a kind of fuzzy gray. You have blue to show each one of these comments here, you have a couple boxes here, and more navigation up here. It's just a lot to take in as a user, and nothing is sort of immediately catching my eye. If it is, it's maybe this box here, I'm putting on the top right. Whereas over here, what's immediately catching my eye is the ability to update the main call to action, which is for people to be able to post something. So we've added this so that most places on the site you can go, you can create content. And then just the main body of the content. So as you get into it, it's just easier to read. And I hope that you agree with that and can see that. Similar function, but hopefully just a better experience. Let's have a look at the profile. So one thing that we heard from the very beginning when we redid the site last time was that having this profile first wasn't very intuitive. When people clicked on their profile, usually what they're wanting to see is what other people see, so this one. But in order to get there, they had to go via another page. So they'd have to come here, click profile, land on this page, and then click View My Public Profile. So we changed that so that when you land on your profile, what you see is what everybody sees. And here's what the new profile looks like. So you can see these two. Again, what we're trying to do is bring the information about the user that's important to the forefront. In addition to that, what we're trying to do is just give them the ability to sort of create their own branded presence in Health Unlocked. So this is the default banner that a user will receive when they sign up for Health Unlocked, but they also have the ability to update it. So if you look at my real profile, I've got a different banner here. It can be any image. You just pop it in and then you size it. That'll be quite easy. The functionality isn't built yet, so I can't show you, but it'll be there in a couple of weeks. But you can see between these two, what we have here is 3 different sections: conditions, symptoms, and treatments. And they're taking up a large part of the page with these lines all the way across. But what we want to do is say, well, do we really need to know that they're individual conditions, symptoms, and treatments? A lot of times that's self-explanatory, and a lot of times the division between a condition and a symptom is blurry anyway. So let's just call them health interests, and we'll put them all in this box. And that gives you sort of an overview or a quick snapshot of who the user is and their health profile. If they want, they can make that private so it doesn't appear. But if they want to display it, they can display that here. We used to also have this bio information here on the right-hand side, and that seems to work fine if you have 2 lines of text like this, but a number of our users have whole paragraphs of text going all the way down this sidebar, and it just didn't make a lot of sense when the user wanted to display this main bit of information about themselves to shove it over here on the right-hand side. So what we've done is we've put that here in the middle. And if the text is long enough, you'll be able to click a button that says Show More, and it'll expand this area so you can read everything that the user has written. And if you don't, then you don't. And then the activity, again, similarly, we just tried to make it cleaner, provide a bit of straightforward context for it, put the supporting information below the text, so the text is the first thing that you see here. And then again, just try to make it look a little bit cleaner. So we hope that we've done that. We hope that you agree that we've done that. This page, the equivalent of this, is slightly got some functionality that we need to put in right here, but ignore that for now. We think that it's a little bit more straightforward, being able to add your health interests straight away, and then you could do just all the same things you could previously do. So look out for this. This will be a nice little feature. Let's move on to messages. So in messages, if you look over here, all of these messages are new, but there's no real visual indication if I have this many new messages that say any of them are new or that none of them are new. They all look the same, and I just have to know that blue means new. Again, the color seems a little overbearing. It doesn't seem very intuitive to know that that's what that means, so we tried to correct that in the new messages section. Again, we've used color sparingly, which means that you can immediately see which items are the ones that you haven't read because they have a red new tag next to them. And then again, you have this orange compose button. You'll see that this color often indicates the main action of the page. So it's easy to find, and the user can know exactly where to go to get it. So they'll be trained to know that it's over here on the right again and again. And you'll see that in other places on the site as well. So let's say I chose to read this message. Again, it looks a little messy. So we tried to clean that up a bit. It looks a little bit more straightforward. The actions are clear. You can go back to the messages, or you can delete this straight away. Whereas over here, things just seem a bit crammed together. So we tried to just make that a better experience. I'll show you how all of these things look on mobile, on a mobile view shortly. So that's your main account pages, but what about the communities? So here's an example of a community. It's NCT. What we've done here is try to give you a more branded presence on this home page. So you have this community here and this navigation bar here with your community color. But in keeping with the way that things are built and the way that users are used to seeing websites and branded web pages, we thought this was more in line with what people are seeing now, and it gave the charity or organization the ability to give their organization real branded presence. So what this banner is similar to the user profile. It's a default banner, but it just works with your branded color. So if you haven't put any image up there, something like this will appear. If your color is purple, it would be purple. If it's blue, then it would be blue. But the idea is that we try to put something attractive in there in the meantime between you signing up and then adding your own banner image. But really and truly, this navigation is one of the main reasons that we started this redesign process. When we relaunched the website last summer, a number of users were quite confused between this bar and this bar. And you can imagine, in the case of this community in particular, if we're telling users to go to the green bar and do something, which one would they go to? It seems to me that it's ambiguous at best. So what we wanted to do was make things as clear and straightforward as possible. So why not just put another bar in this page like we've done here, but just make it more distinct? Well, one thing that we want to do is we build further features and a better product for you is make sure that we're taking users' perspective in mind and taking the analytics and the numbers that we have. And one thing that we did was look at the analytics and the numbers to see how many people were going to these various pages. And it turned out that only 1%, so Health Unlocked has about 2.5 million visits a month now that we're delivering to the communities, but only about 1% of those were finding their way to the About section or the Members section or the Polls section. So we wanted to change the way things work. We wanted to give the About section a bit more prominence so that as soon as you land on the page, it's exposed to you. You can start reading about the community and the charity organization. And then we didn't want to have to give pages that were receiving less traffic the same amount of prominence as the other pages that are being used. So instead of having this second bar, we have the community homepage as a sort of hub. So you can still get to the polls, you can still get to the members, you can get to all posts, but it's just 2 clicks away, and I'll show you what that means. So I hope that you agree that this page is a cleaner version, it's simpler to use, the content is easier to read. Yeah. So let's look at one of those pages. Let's look at the posts page. One thing you'll notice is that this right sidebar is missing. We'll be adding that over the next couple of weeks, so no panic there. These categories will probably be put over here. But the idea is that this information is a lot easier to read, a lot easier to see. It's clearer. It's on this white background, so the main thing that stands out are, number one, the main call to action to write a post, and number two, the content that people are writing. You may have noticed that questions and posts have been merged together. So before you had two sections over here, and now you have one. The reason for doing that is because users couldn't keep the two distinct. They didn't understand the distinction between the questions section and the posts section. So they were adding questions to the post section, and they were adding posts to the question section. And when we polled about 15 or 20 admins, the unanimous answer was yes, merge them. So we did that. So we merged them. We think it's easier. It makes the platform a little more straightforward. So you see that there. We think it's easier to read. One thing I failed to mention, but I'll show you now, is what a community looks like when it's a bit more branded. So here's CLL support, for example. They didn't do this, we did this, and they're very welcome to change it if they'd like whenever they start their community. But we just took a couple of communities and put some images in here to show the kind of thing that you can do for the homepage of your site. Here's Couch to 5K, the running community. In RAS, we've put an actual picture in theirs as well from an event that they had. So you just have a more branded presence. Of course, you can change those images or you can add your own. So back here, you can see on these secondary pages, like this posts page or the poll page, or one of these individual posts or questions, will have this secondary bar. And so this is how users will get wherever they need to go. So let's say we go in here. You can see the difference between the way the posts look. You have the secondary navigation, which allows you to move back to the section that you were in. And we found that whenever we spoke to users, this is the primary way that they used the site. They would usually come to a page like this, and then they would bounce between individual pages and the main post page. So we wanted to make that as simple as possible. So they can go to an individual post, they can read, they can comment. A lot of this functions in a similar way, but hopefully just is cleaner, more simple, and then they can bounce back to the post page. They can sort these just the way they can in the current community, and they can create content. So let's look at the difference between creating a post in the current system and in the new system. You can see it's a much simpler process, much cleaner. In the current system, you have this sidebar, you have things to distract you. The user might come in here and then they might bounce out. We wanted to give them a clean slate. We want it to feel roomy, so they can very easily, and I won't post this because I don't want to disrupt the community, but they can very easily type a title to their post and then the body. And what you see is that before you post it, you have a preview of what it looks like. So this is basically what it looked like, a little bit of spacing difference, but you choose the community, you choose whether it's a post or a question, who can view it, and then you submit it. So you no longer have to do a preview and then look at your preview and then submit it. It's fewer clicks and it's just a much easier process. Soon we'll add the ability to add pictures in this. When everybody has access, that'll be there, but right now that's just functionality that's still being built. So look out for that. That's the basics of a community. Finding a community, this is still something that's being worked on, so it doesn't look quite like it will when it's launched. But this search will be quite powerful. You can put any health term in this search bar, and it'll bring back all of the communities that mention that health term, and it'll bring them back in the order that that is mentioned. So if one community has mentioned that health term the most, that's the one that will be on top. and then second, and then third, and so on. So users can search for the community by community name, they can search for it by any health term, and they'll be delivered the most relevant communities as a result. Whereas in the current directory, you have to know exactly what you're looking for. There isn't really a search option. You can try this one, but that's not what it was made for. Otherwise, you have to do an A to Z kind of look around and have a poke around until you find what you're looking for. But hopefully, just being able to search and being delivered the results that you're looking for will be a much, much easier process. Searching will be similar. So again, this is another page that's still being worked on, so it doesn't look quite like it will do. But what we're doing is we're adding the filtering options here, and then the number of communities it appears in on the right. So similar, but just an easier reading experience, and the ability to sort it will be much, much easier. Let me see what kind of questions we have over here. What about differentiating where the messages have come from? Which community they are, an admin, volunteer. So differentiating where the messages have come from, that's a good question. Let's have a quick look at the messages. So right now, we don't have a couple of icons that will be in here. But one thing that's different about the messages is you'll have in parentheses here the number of messages that are in this thread, whereas here you don't see that. Also in this message here, if I, in the current platform, send a message, then my picture appears here, which isn't actually very helpful because it just helps me know that I'm in this message. But I already knew that I was in this message. So it just means that I have to actually click in to see who else is in this message. We've tried to change that by never letting your image appear here. So it'll either be the person who sent you a message, or it'll be the person that you sent a message to that will appear here. So hopefully distinguishing how many people or how many threads are in how many messages are in this thread and who it was that I sent that message to will be much easier. We also have here that it's Vinay and two others in this message, and you can see in this instance it's Vinay, Amadeo, and Sadie. So in this current version, you can't see things like that. So hoping that this context provides a bit more information about who is in this message, who you've sent it to, and who has sent it to you. I hope that answered your question. Let me see what else here. On each post, are the reporting and editing functions still clearly visible? Yeah, so let's have a quick look. I'll go to a community. Let's say this one. Actually, I think there's a bug here. There's a down arrow that usually appears right here that you can click on, and it shows edit, delete, report, and so on. I'm not sure where it went, but it'll definitely be there. Oh, here's one. It's similar to this. So yeah, it should be pretty straightforward. I think it's pretty obvious that you have a row of buttons here. We've aligned them all on the left so that you read them from left to right rather than being other places, like in Facebook, for example, it's here in the top right. We wanted to keep them all together. So it should be pretty easy to find. I'm not sure where the other ones are, but they'll be there for sure. Does anybody else have questions? Those are good questions. Should I keep going? The recommend feature is still here, and we're planning on making more of that in the new platform. So you'll be able to see who's recommended your posts or recommended your comments. You'll also be notified, not in the immediate future, not when we launch the product, but in the future when somebody has recommended your post, and not just that it's been recommended, but who has recommended it. Let's see. There's also the members section of a community. Right now, this is fairly bare. But when we launch, we'll have another downward arrow similar to the one that allowed you to edit posts. I'll bring this one up over here just so you can compare the two. Hopefully that looks cleaner to you. It looks cleaner to me. Again, this call action is always here, so no matter where you are, you can post content. We'll have a downward arrow right here, which will allow you to send that user a message straight from this spot. So as soon as you click send message, it'll take you to your messages section. It will open it up, and then it'll put that person's name in the message. so you don't have to navigate to their community to do that. You'll also be able to search in a really powerful way, so hopefully that'll make it easier. Well, we have another question here. Can posts still be pinned? Good question, Victoria Hill. Yes, they can. You couldn't see that here simply because we just haven't built that functionality. But similar to the current platform, there will be pinned posts and there will be categories over here on the right. That's probably an example of one bit of feedback that we're responding to straight away. So we've released this to a few users just in its current non-finished form to start getting feedback as soon as possible. And one of the pieces of feedback that we received was that categories were easily seen right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to put those over here and make them more readily available. But yeah, pinned posts will go there. Maybe I'll say a quick word about why this call to action, this write a post, is all over the platform. Number one, we wanted to make it easy so that if a user was anywhere, if they wanted to write a post, they could do so, which means that they can choose the community and then post it straight away, whether that's from their news feed or elsewhere. But the main reason we wanted to do it was because more content helps your community grow. Now, I don't mean just grow in terms of content, but I mean grow in terms of users as well. So there's a sort of circle that happens. Users produce content, and then Google indexes that content. And then when other people go and search the web to try to find similar answers or posts that your users have written about, Google serves them Health Unlocked content, which means more people find you and more people join the community. So it's a nice little circle. The more people that write content, the more it's indexed, the more people find NCD or whatever community that may be. So we wanted to give them the option to produce as much content as possible, because it's good for the community, it's good for Health Unlocked as a whole. I think there's one other section I haven't looked at yet, which is polls. One bit of feedback that we regularly had was that users didn't know that there was a section with all of the polls in it. So if you go to the polls section, you just see this poll. But this little cheeky gray button here, not many people even saw it there, this browse all, which allows you to see all of the polls, which is a real source of pretty interesting insights and information. So what we wanted to do was expose that. So the main poll on the community now will be here, and you can go straight to that poll and you can vote on it and do whatever else. But if you go to the polls section, you have all your polls available to you straight away. Again, there could be sidebar stuff here. Again, a write a post button right there. But it gives you the ability to see all the polls instead of just missing out on them because you didn't see that button. I think those are the primary areas of the new community. You have this read more section, which needs a bit of styling. It's similar to the old one in terms of content and what will appear here, but it's just more readily available because users start reading it as soon as they land on this page. We've also added these stats on this front page, so you can immediately get a bit of context. So say you're new to the site, then you see these stats over here. You can see how many people are in this community and then how much content is in this community. And you can see almost straight away how active it is as a result. So maybe let's move over to the mobile view. This is one of the main reasons why we've switched and built the new version as well. So when you land in Health Unlocked right now, again, if you just logged in from the home page on your mobile, this is what you see. So you've got all of these menus up here, and then you have to scroll down to get to this section. Again, we just thought that this could be done in a cleaner and more readable fashion, and so that's why we did it this way. So again, the main call to action, write a post if they want to be able to do that, but then just an easy to view bit of content, bit of news feed. So the information is the same. It just looks quite a lot different, and hopefully it's just a lot easier to see, a lot easier to read. Health Unlocked is going to focus a lot on mobile in the future because we can see that more and more users are using mobile devices to access the site. So we're gonna help them read the content on the device that they use. So let's say I scroll down and I've been reading this, and now I want to go to another section. Well, on the current platform, you have this, little menu icon, which is more normal when you look at other websites and other apps. But on the current platform, you have to scroll all the way to the top again, which isn't very fun. And then you have to click in here and then click in here. So let's go to profile. But here, you just click this one button. It slides to the right, like other apps do, like other mobile apps. You go straight to your profile. And it just looks a lot nicer on mobile. So scroll down and you can see your picture, but it's just a much bigger, much cleaner, nicer experience. As you can see, so here's the public view for the current site, and here's the public view for the new site. That's one big face. Again, messages, wanted to keep that nice and clean, so you've got all of your options here. But it's a little bit more squished over here, a little harder to read. All these messages are new, so you've got a sea of blue. Whereas this is just a little more straightforward. You can see the difference between the two. It's a much easier to read experience. And it's easy to see who's in this. Whereas over here it feels quite crunched together. Let's look at some other sites. Let's say NCT again. Again, you can see exactly what this community is about in just a quick glance. If they have branding here, they have their logo, the name of the community, who's in it, what's going on, and a description of the community straight away. And if you're not signed in, you have a big sign up button right here. So pretty much everything you need to know about the community in order to make a decision about signing up is readily available, and you can do so right there. Whereas in this community, it's not that straightforward. It's much more tricky. And again, the content is just clean. We've maintained these locks for communities that have content that's hidden. Again, you have the titles, the main bit of content that's been produced, and then information about that content. Whereas you don't have quite as much information over here, and it's just harder to read. So hopefully what you've seen is that it'll just be easier to use the new platform, especially on mobile. We can look at posts. So we have this secondary navigation bar, this context button, so take you back to wherever you were, what community you're in, and then your main call to action. You can produce content. Let's look at more sections. So your main content, your poll, so easy to read. And this takes you just to the individual one, as we were saying before, instead of all of them. Whereas this is what an individual one looks like. I think you get the idea. Members. Easier to find members, they're easier to see. Will allow you to take actions on those members. If you're an admin and you're in the members section, or if you go to that user's profile, you can give them a badge or you can restrict them straight away, even from right here. If you're just a normal user, then you can send them a message straight from here. And you'll see that when we launch, which we think will make it quite a lot easier. I'd show you the admin section, but it's not quite done. It still needs a good bit of work. We're working on it as we speak, actually. A lot of the functionality in the beginning will be similar. Some admins commented that they liked having the equivalent of the community news feed on the homepage of the community, because it meant that they could see everything that happened, and they could use that as a way of moderating the content, so they could read every single little thing. Users fed back that it wasn't very useful to them, so what we're doing is we're putting that community newsfeed in the admin section. So if you want to use that, it'll be there. About us. It's just easier to read. Let me see if you guys have any more questions. Can post to, yep, no, that's all the questions. I think that about wraps up where we are with developing these communities. I can show you on mobile what these communities look like when they have a branded presence. So let's see, I don't think Thyroid UK, let's try CLL support. Or Betchets. She was skydiving for Betchets. A little work that we need to do there. So hopefully you agree that you'll be able to brand your community in a much more powerful way. Users will be able to see what you're about straight away and be able to join. If people are already members, they'll be able to produce content quickly and from wherever they are, which will hopefully supercharge your community, allow more people to create content, more people to read it, and more people to find it and join. I think that's us. So if you have any questions, when a community uses search, will this return the specific community information first as now? Asked on behalf of Nick. Good question, Nick. Yes, it will. So the search will be context sensitive, as it is in the current platform. So it'll return your community's results first. But just the way it is in the current platform, you can then search the entire site with that same term, or you can look at all the other communities that have that search term. Thanks very much for joining me. I hope that you're looking forward to the new community as much as we are. We're very open to feedback. We're going to be using a lot of it along the way as our beta users test out the system. We'll be responding, and of course we'll do the same for you. So feel free to get in touch with Hugo or Simone, and I'm sure they'll feed anything back to me that needs to be fed back to me. Okay. Thanks. Have a great day. Bye.